producer. You have a lot of experience making some short films and producing television. So I wanted to make sure I ask you, what is the big difference between collaborating on a project like Princess Ponies, writing your own story, or working with, I assume, a pretty large group of people specifically to create a visual medium that you're probably going to have less control over than you would your own novel?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think it's interesting. I think really the key is exactly as you said, that the word collaboration. So, the more expensive a project is, generally speaking, the more people are involved in it. And generally speaking, the more you're trying to de-risk it creatively, right? So if you're sitting down to write a book, you basically have full control. I mean, MetaWars or Neurotic Zombie or Alienate, those are great examples. I mean, those are books where, when I sit down, I am the director, the showrunner, the editor. I mean, obviously I work with an editor who works with my words, but I'm in complete control over what the reader experiences. If you're trying to do something for the screen, I made, for example, I've done loads of things, but I did a preschool show, a couple seasons of a preschool show, which was animated. And there were literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people involved in different locations all around the world. We had people in Toronto, we had people in Malaysia. And when you're doing something like that, you've got a network involved, you've got development executives, you've got heads of department, heads of animation. And really the role there is just make sure that everybody's singing from the same song sheet. I call it keeping it honest. And I guess the role that I always try and play, whether it's my own work or whether I'm helping somebody else, another author, get their projects made, is to be the keeper of the tone. Because I think that's the one thing that an author brings to their written work, is a point of view on the world. And even though the story may have to evolve and change for the screen, I think if you can keep that author's voice and that tone, that's probably that's kind of the most sacred thing I can wrap my arms around to kind of protect for an author.
So what, for people that are thinking that they might want to participate in a film adaptation or a YouTube series or whatever they want to do with their project, what specific steps do you take to help maintain that tone?
I guess for me, it's really about understanding where it's coming from and making sure right at the very beginning of a process that the people who are going to go on that journey with you see the same vision. And again, I don't want to get into all the semantics of how the legal is done and optioning and all that stuff. But as your viewers might know, typically what happens is when somebody options a book from an author, there's all sorts of legalese that basically say that production company or that studio basically can do whatever they want. Now, sometimes there's some carve outs, and sometimes, the author can say, well, you can't do this, or things that are morally ambiguous you can't do, or what have you. But generally speaking, you're kind of like selling your house. And if the next people want to redecorate it, they're legally allowed to do that. So what you want to do is you want to make sure from the get-go you have a trusting relationship with the people you're going to work with. And as much as possible, you want to have a voice at the table. So, Walking Dead is a good example. Robert Kirkman was an executive producer on that. He wrote, I think it was episode 5 of the first initial run. Skybound was his company. With Circle of Confusion was his management company. So lots of people were working on his behalf. And so if you can do that as much as possible, have people that share your vision, that's probably the secret to success. When I do it, when I work with authors and help them, it's really about trust. It's really about making sure that everybody that we hire, everybody that wants to work on the project, has the same tonal ambition, maybe a different story ambition, because story can change and plot can change, but that they have the same point of view, the same lens on the world.